Brilliant. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting of SACRE. My name is Councillor Bob Webb. I'm chair of this committee and executive member for children, young people and education. We have got a couple of new people in the room this evening, so I am just going to go around and do a bit of introductions so everybody sort of has a vague idea of who everybody is, and then we'll get going with the meeting proper. So Reece, do you just want to introduce yourself?
I'm Reece. I'm the clerk and democracy officer for the committee.
Maxine Squire, I'm Assistant Director for Education and Skills with City of York Council on the LA officer supporting SACRE.
Hi, I'm Councillor Sarah Wilson and I am representing Fishergate and a previous primary school teacher as well.
Good evening, I'm Emily Knight, Councillor Emily Knight, and I represent the Rural West York Ward.
Hi, Councillor Martin Rowley. I am the councillor for Oswaldwick and Derwent Ward. I've been on this committee for the last 4 years, and I've been involved in education for over 30. So,
hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Dan at York St John University as the RE lecturer, primary and secondary. I'll say more later.
Hi, I'm Sue Bland. I was head teacher at St Oswald's Church of England Primary. I'm now retired, but representing Church of England schools.
Hello, I am Karen Vincent. I am part of your A group. I am your Roman Catholic representative, but I am also a teacher at All Saints. And I am also actually an Anglican, so I can fit into lots of different groups for you.
I'm Dariush Mazloum from Group A, representing the Baha'i faith on here.
Hello, I'm Amar and I'm the Imam at York Mosque and also representing York Mosque and the Islamic faith.
Excellent, thank you. And welcome to Diane and welcome to Amar. It's really good to see new people around the room. And I think it is worth saying, obviously, in terms of committee positions, Amar, you sort of have an automatic position in this as you're representing the mosque, and that goes on to Group A. So that's good. And then Diane, again, welcome. We obviously have to sort of make a decision as to whether we want to accept Diane onto Group C. Don't worry. But I just wondered if you wanted to say anything before we formally agree.
Maxine has asked me to say a few words, so I think I'll give some comments.
Her role in age.
We would have representatives then from primary education, secondary education, and also higher education. And because of Diane's role in supporting teacher training, then it seems a good fit in terms of religious education.
My 5 minutes is now reduced to probably about 3. Maxine's just said, well, a little bit of my background. I'm secondary trained and have been a secondary teacher for 25 years. Teaching RE. I retrained just after COVID. Sorry. Good evening. I retrained during COVID to teach English as a foreign language as well. So it's another string to my bow. I served on Leeds and Kirklees SACREs previously as well, so I'm not new to SACRE as such. I'm also currently a school governor at a primary school in the village where I live. And I previously worked as a governor in a secondary school and a primary school as well. I spent 2 years as a RE advisor for Leeds Diocese. And as in that role, devised quite a number of different courses for both primary school teachers and heads and secondary school teachers. I've worked the last 18 months as a link tutor for York St John, but also done some for Leeds Trinity College as well, University College as well. And that involves going into schools and working with the trainees in situ in school. And in fact, actually, we're a trainee in All Saints at the moment, as you're probably aware. I work for AQA as an examiner, the GCSE courses. And so that's kind of a background that's taken me to where I am at the moment, which is working with the university on their PGCE programs for primary and secondary, but also working with the undergraduates on the primary routes. I'm new to that. I'll hold my hands up. It's great, it's exciting, and I'm loving it. And it's something I've always loved doing. All the way through my teaching career, I've been involved in teacher training, whether it be as a mentor or latterly as an ITT coordinator. So it kind of is a natural development for me. Why am I interested in SACRE? Well, I've done SACRE, as I said before, both Leeds and Kirklees. Know something about the kind of responsibilities that you have in terms of the locally agreed syllabus. I did work with the people that devised the Leeds syllabus a little bit. I can't say that I did a lot, but I did a lot of reading and criticising and sending notes to them. Whether that was taken up is another story for another day. But I'm aware of different mechanisms that SACREs can use in order to be able to devise a syllabus. Why am I interested? Well, it's a natural link with the university. It's in the city where the university is. And obviously SACRE is about being at the forefront of the developments in the subject and where it's going, and in fact directing where it's going locally. And I think it's an exciting time to be involved in RE, actually. At the university, ultimately not straight away, but we want to develop hubs which will be there to support teachers in teaching RE. Sometimes teachers are isolated, particularly in primary schools if they're subject lead for this subject, and so it would be a way of supporting them and helping them come together. There's a lot already been done in the subject when it comes to hubs, and I don't want to replicate what's already been done. I don't want to stand on anybody's toes, but we want to be able to be a service to help people teaching the subject and make them feel that they're linked to something. And for me, it's about networking as well, so I can develop links with people like yourself. So thank you very much for having me tonight.
Thank you, Diane. It sounds like a never knock just reading papers and criticising. I've made a career out of that. But I think that it sounds like you've got a lot of very valuable experience that hopefully we can make use of. Penny, welcome. Oh, no need. Nightmare. Amar, I don't know if you wanted to say anything at this point about sort of your background and your work with the mosque or anything like that.
Yeah, of course. So I've been at the mosque now for just over a year. But before that, I studied I studied quite a bit. You have to study quite a bit to become an imam. So a lot of my experience especially in the education format comes from there. So I studied for like the best part of 10 years studying to become an imam. And then at the same time doing GCSEs, A-levels and things like that. I currently go to the University of York as well. So I'm doing that at the same time. So I still have like a first-hand experience of what education is like. And at the mosque in the evenings, we have education classes for the youth, usually starting from kind of from reception year 1 all the way until A-level age. So we teach them Islamic studies and a lot of things that they hear in RE, especially when it comes to Islam or even other religions or whatever they come across. Usually their first part of asking about it is usually to me or to other teachers that we have. So that would be kind of where my experience lies in terms of the education setting.
That's really helpful, and again, another really valuable contribution. So thank you for being here. Okay, I know I'm taking things slightly out of order here, but I think it's worth formally agreeing Diane's sort of joined Committee C. So does anyone have any objections to Diane joining? Let's do it that way. No? Diane, welcome. You're part of the team. There we go. Well done. Okay, so I will now go back to the start of the agenda and talk about the boring stuff. So apologies for absence. We've had apologies from Ben Rich, Ian Hodgson, Andy Todd, and Joseph Heppelston that I'm aware of. Has anybody else got any other apologies? No? Okay.
Some available. If there isn't, don't worry, it's fine. Yeah.
So we let ourselves down.
It's all right, it's not a problem. I would look at it on
There
my
was
phone.
one
but
on
I've got
top
like
of the photocopy
no,
that
read
says
from pen.
on Thursday.
It's all right. It's been trained. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my feeling. We'll have a brief pause.
It's not the end of it. I'll just.
We're on the first floor printing, so
That's all right. You can follow it on here. It's fine. Yeah. Does anybody else?
does anybody else need one? So that's fine. Right, what we'll do, let's have a minute just talking amongst ourselves and have a brief pause while we get a few of those.
Sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. You're all right. Adjourn. Thank you.
You can't be a head teacher.
Okay, welcome back after that brief interlude. So we'd reached the end of apologies for absence. We've done well, and we've moved on to declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations at this point? No? Excellent. So item 2 is minutes and matters arising from the minutes. So firstly, does anyone have any questions of accuracy around the minutes from the meeting on the 22nd of June? Assuming that no one has, then we can take those minutes as approved, and that's great. And do I have to sign them at some point? I'll sign them at the end then, if that's okay. Thank you very much. And so we'll move on now to matters arising from those minutes. Does anyone have any particular things they'd like to raise at this point? No? Maxine, can you just use your...
On the school visits item, I will circulate a programme of school visits for the remainder of this academic year, and then invite people to express an interest in joining those. What we will focus on is first of all asking for willing volunteers, as we did with Andy, because I think that works best to begin with. And I'll do that. I'll put that out both to our academies as well as our maintained schools, because of the fact that most schools in the city do use the agreed syllabus, be they academy or maintained. And that's what we want to get a sense of, really, about, sort of how is that agreed syllabus being used? Are there any things that schools want to feed back to us about that agreed syllabus? And that also will help to inform those things that SACRE may want to see develop in the coming year as well, particularly around opportunities for more CPD, for example. And, last year we identified that it was teachers felt that there was a need to have some support with with actually teaching humanism as the non-faith option. And so we did put on a workshop for teachers, which was led by the National Humanist Society, and that happened in June. So being responsive to some of the things that are coming through. I know one of the things as well that we did have on discussion last time for myself and Bob to look at was starting to look at collating ideas about resources and school visit and places that schools could visit. So Imam, I know that very often our schools visit mosques in Bradford, for example, but it's what is more available in the local area, representing faith in the local area.
Yeah, I think if I just pop in on that point, one of the apologies we had tonight was for Ben Rich, who's currently our vice chair. And I met with Ben, who was very keen to put together a list of venues firstly venues, but secondly, speakers, people who could potentially go into schools themselves and to talk about faith or various aspects of faith. Ben promised me that he was going to put together a paper on sort of, because he's of the Jewish faith, so he's going to put something together from his perspective as almost a prompt for then other communities to sort of do something similar. That hasn't happened yet, so that is something that is ongoing. And I know I've been talking to you, Maxine, about doing that. So that's something I think we will build to.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice this year. It would be nice this year if we could have almost like a fact sheet about each of the faith communities in York that, can be used by school teachers. Because obviously what they do use is what's available in the agreed syllabus. But it's nice then to have that local element in terms of, and this is how that faith's expressed in the city. Yeah. So almost, a bit about population of your faith group and other things. Where do you meet? Those types of things.
Yeah, with school visits, since I've joined, pretty much every week we have a school visit. Right. So we have a school coming in, or I would go to a school. But the issue I see often is what you were saying about the fact sheet. I think it would be very, very useful. A lot of the time they're unaware of where the mosque is, unaware about how many Muslims live in York, how many mosques there are, things like that. And even with the syllabus, I think a lot of teachers become slightly apprehensive because children ask anything and everything. Yes. So what's on the syllabus, they don't really have much knowledge faster than what's in the syllabus. So often, whenever we do the question and answers at the end, that's when the teachers sit back or they collate questions they get when they were teaching the Muslim faith, and then they present it to us, and then that's when we can answer it. So that's I think the fact sheet would be a good idea, and what you're saying about Bob putting together something about the Jewish faith. I think I could very much, if I see what he's done, I could try and analyze and then do it from my perspective as well.
Excellent. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So that's good. Darius, you had
two things about the fact sheets. Most of the faiths do have them, and the Baha'i faith has a special committee nationally for RE, Bishkek Community will be providing that. The second one is about the visits. It may be interesting to mention about interfaith in York, where visit various places. But now, recently, we have been negotiating with the faiths who do not have a place in York or the nearby, like the Baha'i faith, and we are arranging an online sort of visit. This has been done previously with another faiths, and this for the Baha'i faith will happen at the interfaiths meeting in January. So this is a possibility of sending the information to the schools, and if they are interested, they can join in.
Thank you. Penny.
When we did the agreed syllabus, Maxine attached supplementally information about our faiths that we were invited to submit.
It will be Olivia, not me,
Oh,
because
sorry,
I wasn't
yes,
supporting.
Olivia,
Yeah,
yes.
at that stage.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Olivia attached it, which did talk about the faiths. Obviously, she was drawing from the community in York that went to all the teachers who got.
Yeah, it's just
information.
really that chance to refresh it, because
Okay.
obviously sometimes things get out of date quite quickly, and it's almost like, you know, sort of as of now, what does that faith community look like in the city? And you know, things like how long has that faith been represented in the city of York? So, you know, just a few
Fleshing it out
things,
a
just to
little-
flesh it out a little
more.
bit. I mean, we could almost suggest some things that would go in there that would actually be helpful.
So are we going to add that supplemental information?
Yeah,
to the agreed
I think,
syllabus?
yes,
Right,
definitely,
okay.
because it's very often it's the local element that gets really missed from how the subject's taught in schools. And I always think it gives it a real freshness where it's referencing what's happening in the local area. And also it's what Ofsted expect to see increasingly now as well, the way in which you're tailoring the curriculum to reflect the local area.
One thing that we have found from the last kind of launch of the syllabus was that Olivia emphasised York Interfaith as a resource for different faiths, for visits into schools. And we have seen an increase in schools approaching us.
Good.
And asking for input, whether it be as talk about York Interfaith as a group and what you do. And Poppleton News Bank are going to have us in to do that.
Brilliant.
In about 3 or 4 assemblies worth through their children. But sometimes they want individual visits from particular faiths to supplement and create interest for their curriculum that they're following. So we have seen an increase. So if that could also be kind of promoted alongside individual faiths, that would be really helpful, because we're really happy to do that and support where we can. We're not a massive group, but we do have access and connections to a variety of people.
We'll make it a sort of standing item in the school's RE newsletter that, you know, there's that constant reminder about where you can access things in the local area.
Great,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think that the key thing for me coming in as chair of this committee is I want to make the job of RE teachers as easy as possible. And I think finding these resources to help and support those individuals is key. Diane.
Just wanted to add to what's been said by directory, the website that's open now. Probably wasn't open when you first wrote the syllabus, but now and on there's lots of contacts for visits in the area and things like that when you go onto the local hall.
Thank you.
There's a lot of resources there already.
When you were talking earlier about what the hubs, and I thought this could work quite well with what we've been looking to do. Excellent. Good. I feel we've made some progress. Penny.
I was just going to say, I think we've done some of that with some of the, particularly the primary school teacher hubs have kind of forwarded that information to the teachers, and I think some of that has then in return come back to us as an inquiry at Interfaith, for example. So, you know, it is working, but maybe a little bit of help and oiling would be good.
Thanks very much, everybody. I'm aware we're still on matters arising from the previous agenda, but we are doing quite well. I'm going to go to Martin because he's been waiting for a long time.
Thank you, Bob. You know how patient I am. All it was just to bring your attention back to an item on the last agenda. It was minuted, and it was about the election of the vice chair. Brilliant. That was all it was. Thank you, sir.
No, since you've raised it, Martin, I will go to that point now. So at the previous meeting, we discussed the appointment of vice chair, which was due to come to this meeting. The current vice chair is Ben Rich. Obviously, Ben's not here tonight. I did send him an email earlier on to ask if he was willing to continue as vice chair. And I think his response was essentially, I think it's someone else's turn, but if no one else wants to do it, then he would. So my question is there a specific committee that this vice chair has to come from? Maxine, are you aware?
So there isn't. It's always been in the time that I've been on SACRE, it's always been accepted at practice that the chair and the vice chair come from different. So in a sense, it wouldn't be an elected member or somebody from group D. So it would be from another group. So that was the only thing that I would put. And Maxine was probably going to say exactly the same thing.
I was, Martin. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Absolutely fine. Okay, so excluding Group D, do we have any volunteers? Penny.
Oh, no, I was just going to make a comment that when we looked at this before, that I think in the written constitution, you can actually hold a post for 3 years. So you're not forced to have an election every single year for that position. If that were helpful.
Very helpful.
Because there's been a lot of, not for Ben, but there has been a lot of personnel change here just recently, and it just might be helpful. He's a very seasoned, he knows the ropes about SACRE much more than I do. So I just
I'm sure he'd appreciate the word seasoned as well.
In a good way.
Well, I will open it up. Is there anybody else who really would like to be vice chair? Are we all happy for Ben to continue as vice chair? Right, that is formal then. We've done that. While we're quorate, it's always worth just checking those things. Excellent. Okay.
Then just noting,
Could you use your
points? Is it then worth just noting Penny's points that if we're appointing him as the vice chair, we are now appointing him as the vice chair for a period of up to 3 years, so that if he's not, so that we don't have to do this process every year. I think it'd be good to have that in the minutes. That was all.
No, I think it's a fair point. Can we add that in? Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Anything else in terms of matters arising? Oh, the only other thing I was going to mention is the last meeting we did discuss about holding this meeting in other parts of the city, as had happened previously. I asked members of the committee to come back to me with any venues that they suggested. I didn't receive any. Penny?
I volunteered at the last meeting. Our chapel.
So you volunteered your chapel. Excellent. Would we like to go to the chapel?
It's a big place in Acomb, so it has a chapel, but it has a hall, or it has a smaller room, which
I suppose
is big enough.
The only point I would make, and I did have this question from our tech team after the meeting, was it would have to be accessible so that we could do what we're doing with the live stream and all of the microphones and things. And as long as the tech team can get along in advance to have a look at it, that was probably okay. But are we all happy with that? Penny?
I was going to say, it does have Wi-Fi. We do stream meetings ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm not a technical person, but the facilities are there to be kind of worked with the technical side for like extra things, like however they work the microphones, I imagine.
Thank you. Emily?
Yes, I was just going to think, if the purpose or one of the purposes of moving around the city is to increase the visibility and give people an opportunity to engage, it would be sensible to really do the extra mile with some promotion of it. There's no point in us all decamping to Acombe or anywhere else if there's nobody else there. We might as well just be here. It occurred to me, sorry, this is a two-parter, it occurred to me that would that be an opportunity for older students, so sixth formers and older students, doing a positive campaign to invite them to come along? I mean, this is a perfect example of interfaith working. And then we could have a bit of a push on that and say that we'll be in different locations.
I think that's a really good idea. Penny?
I don't wish to put a damper on that, but having teenage children, I can't see them coming to a SACRE meeting and being engaged. Personally. If it were a visit or something more engaging, then yes, for us to interact with them. But if we're just inviting them to a SACRE meeting, they won't come.
No, sorry, yes, what I meant, it was a two-parter. The general public to attend the meeting if they wish to, from a school's perspective, as an organised visit, or the Scouts, for example. They have evening gatherings, that might be an opportunity.
Yeah, we've had Scouts. Right?
Yes, that's the sort of thing I was thinking.
Thank you. I can't believe, Penny, that you don't think that this is a riveting, this is a laugh a minute, this one, isn't it? Right, well, I tell you what, why don't we start by saying that yes to Penny's kind invite, and then actually we can think in between the meeting about how we promote it firstly. I think we can definitely promote it. And then if people come back with sort of concrete ideas of what they think we could put on, even if it was just maybe a talk in advance of the meeting to invite people to, that might work well. Diane,
I was just going to suggest, if the SACRE is going to be producing a new syllabus in the near future, which can I say we are? Now, I think I can, can't I? Then getting some feedback from students would be fantastic about what they think about the RE that they've had, i.e. what they think of the syllabus. They won't answer it like that, but they could give us some ideas of the things that they've done in RE and what's worked and what hasn't. Get some feedback from them. It's not just about the teachers, is it?
Thank you. That was actually going to feed into when we move on to the development plan later on. I was going to raise that very point. So well said. Councillor Rowley.
Sorry, Chair. This is more of a point probably for Reece, really. In previous SACREs towards the end of the last 4 years, we agreed that whenever the list of members was put out, whether it be for an agenda or we actually, not only do we put them in the groups that we're all in, but we actually put alongside who they were representing. And we did agree that. So it's just for Reece, if you in future or your colleagues are putting the agenda out, if we can see where they're representing. I mean, we all know, but the general public looking at it, Group A, fantastic people, and you can probably try and guess where they're representing, but it doesn't clearly state. And we did address this previously. Well, we did, didn't we? Yeah, I thought we did. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I know that on the agenda front sheet, it already has sort of an outline of what the different groups are in general, but a bit more specifics.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Not necessarily us, but people looking in.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Last one on Matt.
Honestly, it really is. I just wanted to flag up that the next meeting, which Penny has kindly said that she'll host, is a really crucial one, because the January meeting, we have to be quorate to sign off the annual report. So, because that has to go to SACRE, and it is really important, because last year we did struggle and we sent it in late because we were struggling around quoracy. So it's really, really important that one is one that people are at from the 4 different committees, so that we can get that signed off in a timely way and it goes on its way to the DFE and the SACRE.
Thank you, Maxine. For all those people who are on tenterhooks, it is the 22nd of January at 6 p.m. and now will be taking place in a different venue to West offices. But put it in your diaries.
So it's just subject to, because they're even more important that people that want to attend remotely have that facility. So it's even more important to ensure that the tech is going to work.
Yeah.
Is there someone that I can directly liaise with?
So we'll work that out in the background, Penny, but
Okay.
And then we'll speak
That's
to you
fine.
about what's
That's
going
fine.
on. But yeah, because I think I'm catching up with you at some point in the near future anyway, aren't I? So I'll bring
Beginning of
something.
next month.
There we go. Excellent. Right, I officially declare us finished with what happened last time. Okay, I'm going to move us on to now, which brings us to the development plan. And you'll see the development plan is on page 13 of the pack, I think, item 4. And you've got a series of points in there about our development plan. Maxine, is there anything you want to introduce about this?
Yeah, as you'll remember, the development plan Olivia and I worked on as part of the work that we'd done on the last annual report. It does follow the 5 key functions of SACRE contained in the SACRE self-evaluation toolkit, and Olivia was very keen that we actually made sure that it was following those functions, which are listed on the front of the development plan. I think it's important that we get a sense of how it's being kept under review and what work is being completed on this in between SACRE meetings. One of the things that I would say is that I am the only local authority officer supporting SACRE. So this is work that I do on top of the rest of the day job. So some of these things I'll talk you through them, but it is going to be important to think about how we do this in sort of a task and finish way as well going forward. I know we've talked before about having working groups from SACRE, but I think that becomes ever more important to move certain work streams on during the current academic year, so that we actually do feel that this is a meaningful development plan, that we've actually achieved some outcomes by the end of it, because January 2024 starts. And so what we will be doing as SACRE is putting this plan to bed by the end of the 23-24 academic year. So next July, we'll want to have most of this finished. And we'll also be talking about what our new priorities are for the development plan for the coming 2 years. And those coming 2 years will be very important because they will also incorporate the review of the agreed syllabus. So, you know, that becomes a big piece of work on the forward plan, for which will take us between 24 and 26. So we will be publishing a new locally agreed syllabus between 2024 and 2026. So that's a big piece of work. So as I've said, what Olivia and I did on this was to think about how we could set some actions which would be against those priority areas which were in that self-evaluation toolkit, and look at how we can move them forward. Now, one of those Penny's, Emily and Penny have just mentioned about raising profile, because SACREs very often can become quite a functional thing because you have to have them statutorily, but then they don't mean an awful lot outside the community that knows what SACRE is. And I think it does sometimes lead then to, well, what's it for? And so I think a piece of work this year about how do you use your role on SACRE as part of the way that you raise its profile within the communities that you represent as well, is actually quite important. Now, what Olivia and I did was we focused on raising the profile of SACRE within the school community. And we've done that obviously in partnership with Andy, our primary rep, who coordinates the primary school RE teachers. And so he's been quite active in promoting what SACRE is amongst the group that he coordinates. And Taco last year took over as coordinating the secondary group. You know, we can't take it as a given that all teachers know what SACRE is. Just because they're a teacher of RE, it doesn't mean that they know what the role of SACRE is. So, you know, making sure that the community it probably most affects, which is the teaching community, also understand what SACRE is here to do and how it relates to the 1944 Education Act is equally important, and keeping refreshing that is really important. What I did last year was I contacted all schools and asked them to confirm for me who their RE lead was. So I have got a list of who the named lead is in each primary school and who the subject leader is in our secondary schools. That's now a year old. So what I do intend to just do the rounds again, because things do change, particularly in the primary schools, where sometimes that subject coordinator role can move around members of staff, particularly for subjects like RE. So that we always have an up-to-date contacts list, because what we've done as SACRE in the past is we've tended to have to send it into the generic school inbox, and then obviously you've got the poor person who is the member of admin staff then trying to think about, well, who does that go to, and then it doesn't always get to the right person. So that was one of the things that we did to raise profile last year, try and make sure we'd got an up-to-date contact list so that things could go to the right person. One of the things that we thought about was how it would get into governor forums. I must admit that that's probably slipped off the radar, but I will speak to the governor service because they obviously do regular mail outs to governors. And one of the things that governors probably haven't had in a long time is something specifically about their responsibilities towards statutory elements of the school curriculum. And they tend to forget that RE is the one bit that's prescribed by law and is very, very statutory. So I'll ask Deborah Wilcox, who runs our governor training and also gets regular newsletters out to governors, just to put something in again about the role of SACRE.
Sorry, Max, do you still have the kind of the chairs briefings?
Yes, we do.
So it might be worth just mentioning
Yeah.
out a chairs briefing, because I know that in the senior school where I am, as you know, most senior schools have an RE governor. They kind of link governors to subjects. So again, bringing that heads up with the chairs.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, one of the things that, you know, it's to consider as sort of a task and finish type of work within a meeting is what could SACRE do to support a link RE governor in their role? Because it's one of the things where, you know, if they had something that they could actually use in those link governor visits, it would probably help them as well to get more out of that. So, you know, that's something that we might want to consider, that we actually produce something that, you know, it's not big, but it's just to help those governors who do carry that responsibility. And again, it helps because we can put the SACRE logo on it. They know it's come from SACRE, and it's just something to put in the governor toolkit. One of the things that we didn't do last year was think about the profiles of SACRE members. So, you know, sort of the front-facing bit, what do we want to put out there in terms of SACRE membership? We have got a bit of the council's website, which is the SACRE, and it's, again, you know, keeping that under review and keeping it fresh, because it's very easy to let things on websites get out of date. And then obviously what we did do is that Olivia was really good at getting the newsletters up and running. And we did design a template for those. I will be sending out requests to people for anything that wants to go into the autumn newsletter. And then the idea would be to send it out just after half term. So we've made some progress in those areas, but the one that, you know, is probably outstanding is the attend the governor forums is definitely the one. And then reviewing the membership. Obviously, it's great. We've got 2 new members tonight. So we are continuing to make progress on that. We still do have some faith communities that are not represented on SACRE. And so, you know, sort of continuing to try and get links and make those invitations to Committee A is something that we just need to keep pushing, so that we've at least let people in those faith communities know that SACRE does exist. There is that opportunity to be represented within Committee A. Yeah, you know, at least we know then that they've had that invitation to be involved. So if people do have links to particular faith communities that are not currently represented around the SACRE table, and I'm looking at you, Penny, because Interfaith are probably the main source of that, please, you know, sort of let us know how to do that.
I wonder if we could put an article in our Interfaith newsletter.
Absolutely.
Just kind of, again, another nudge. You have to say it many times, don't
We do, yeah, and it's just keep repeating that, you know, sort of that this is what SACRE is, and there is that opportunity to join. We did support the Interfaith logo competition last year, and we did get, you know, sort of some representation from schools in that. I know what you decided in Interfaith was to do a biennial competition, and I think you're wanting to do something that is about writing next year.
Yes, that's correct. Because we're only a small interfaith group, it was actually, I mean, we learned things from it.
Yeah.
And we'd have a better clue
the
next time, but it actually takes a lot of work.
It does
to bring that together, and we've had various people ill and all sorts of things, so it just became too difficult in the time frame to be able to deliver that on an annual basis. Was quite a lot for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The good news I shall tell you is that our logo is we're just having it finalized to be in a very clear digital format, so that we can then use that and bring it out in Interfaith Week this year, so that we've taken the original drawing and kept true to it, but we now have it in a quality digital standard that we can use.
Yeah, that's really good news. Yeah. The one that I think probably we need to make some progress on this year is youth voice. And it is sort of a task for myself and the chair that we start to look at that. But I think it's pertinent to what Diane said about how do we get that voice of young people about their experience of RE in schools, their experience of, you know, sort of the agreed syllabus and how it feels from the point of view of being in the classroom, in the seats. And that can also be part of the preparatory work we do for the review of the agreed syllabus, and you know, increasing ownership that young people have, that we're also reflecting their voices in how that's actually developed when it comes up for review.
Seeing on that, I think it's really good to see that we've got, you know, the Show Me That I'm At a group there, and York Youth Council, 2 very, very different groups of young people. I also think, we talked about school visits earlier on, is there an opportunity when we're doing a school visit to do a bit of student voice?
Absolutely, you did, didn't you?
Yeah. And I think doing that in school, where young people are thinking about RE lessons and things like that is possibly a good thing. I'd also think that Amar, if you know, are doing classes outside of school
really
for
helpful.
lots of young people, there's potential avenue there to get some voice.
Yeah, I think anybody who's got groups that young people come to regularly, I think it's really useful for us to get a sense of what their voice is about their experience of religious education.
Yeah, so just on the youth, there's a few kind of things I wanted to just see if we have anything in place. So of course we have the two main universities in York, and there's various faith societies. I don't know if we're in contact with them in terms of how they're kind of accessing religious education. And then in terms of the mosque, we have like a running youth club, which I guess would be a good place to start in terms of gauging exactly what the youth say, and all of that's extracurricular. And even when I was speaking before about when the kids would come to us with what they were learning in religious studies in like during their school time, a lot of the time I'm clearing up things that they've misunderstood. So I think that feedback would be good as well.
Yeah.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, it was just to note while you were talking about the website that it seems very out of date. The last one is like this. There's a meeting from June 2020.
Yeah.
So membership is well out of date.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a good place to advertise where our vacancies are, which are obviously not correct at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was one of the things that it fell out of date because there were some changes during the COVID lockdowns. And the person who'd previously clerked meetings used to be from within my service, and then it went into democratic services. And so that's when that website wasn't updated, because she used to keep it up to date. So yeah, we need a process for actually making sure that now does get updated, because I always feel, you know, with anything that we put out that's out of date, it needs to be removed and refreshed. But I think that the Imam's point about misconceptions is really, really important, because obviously we found that as well when we did the interfaith competition. And it's that opportunity to really play that back into the schools about the way that we need to ensure that it's not creating those misconceptions, because good quality RE teaching is designed so that that doesn't become an issue.
Yeah, so just on the youth groups, how do I go about setting up those connections with SACRE? And do I just rely on feedback, or do I bring a representative from the youth groups? Yes, I was just figuring out how do we do that?
No, I think it's a good question. And so where I was going next really was thinking about, for example, we talked about going out in January to Aiken and holding our meeting at 6 o'clock, for example. Is there an opportunity to invite a group of young people to 5 o'clock, say, and have an hour where we as members could talk to the young people, have a little survey, something like that we can work with, and fill in a survey with the young people about their thoughts and feelings, see how that goes, and then based on what happens at that meeting, have a plan for the next meeting where we could repeat the process potentially somewhere else. You know, we could come to the mosque, for example, possibly as an option. Karen.
If you bribe the youngsters with pizza or sweets or donuts, then they are more likely to, what I'm just thinking about my teenagers, they are more likely to come and be more open with you. It's a more relaxed kind of environment rather than we're all going to sit round the table and discuss things. Just a practical.
No, I think it's fair point. I mean, for example, this room, the next room, and the next room, and there's the Show Me That I Matter committee, which is children who are in care and care experience young people. wall-to-wall pizza around here, and that is a really important part of it.
Sorry, I used to be on that committee and I'm not. I don't understand why.
And I just think that's a really good point, that actually if we were doing something like that, we would have to think about how we do that. And I think between meetings, myself and Maxine can look at what we could do. Pizza is always a good shout. Maxine.
Yeah, one of the things, obviously, if we look at priority 2, was about promoting improvement in standards, quality of teaching and provision in RE. We did say that we wanted to have a look at the programme of CPD, which supported the implementation of the agreed syllabus. One of the things, as I say, that we did in the summer was about how to teach the non-faith elements of that. And so, as I say, we had a CPD session, which was from the Humanist Society, but it's that opportunity to start to think about what else is needed in that space. There are increasingly non-specialist teachers teaching RE. And so, you know, sort of using their voices as well to get at what's going to be most useful in the coming year is very, very important. Andy obviously has got good experience, because although he leads RE in Ralph Butterfield School, he was a non-specialist before he became subject coordinator, and now he's very enthusiastic about RE, but he is very aware that he came to it absolutely cold and had to do a lot of learning. And there will be colleagues, particularly out in primary schools, but increasingly in secondary schools as well, who are non-subject specialists, who are picking that up on their curriculum, which I think, Imam, is where some of those misconceptions sometimes come from as well. So it's one of the things that we do need to think about in terms of what would be things that we would want to, as SACRE, say we're putting this on as an opportunity for teachers in the city, and getting a sense of that from the survey, which I'll come on to in a minute, because last time we used that as an opportunity to pin down what would you find most useful to have as extra support.
Just going to stop you there for a moment. Councillor Wilson,
Thank you. Slightly connected, because it was a thought that occurred to me as a non-specialist RE teacher, which I was, when the Imam was talking about the misconceptions in subjects like maths. You get like a little guide of common misconceptions, which is a really useful, helpful teaching point. So I wonder if there's some work that would be done around a resource around common misconceptions that for non-specialists would actually be really useful, obviously depending on what the survey says as well.
Yeah, I think actually if we go back to what we said right at the start about, you know, these are the facts about what's available locally. This is, you know, the number of Muslims that are in York, for example. You could add something in about that, and you're essentially, this builds up to a bit of a more detailed, deeper curriculum. Diane.
I have a resource on that.
Brilliant.
Diane, we're glad you're here. Maxine.
We had as a task to re-establish the secondary network meetings. As I said, Olivia supported TACO to do that piece of work. And we can get an update on TACO when he attends a future meeting about that. One of the things, obviously, with all teachers at the moment is time to do some of these things. And what has tended to happen, obviously, because schools are so busy, finding time for subject-specific meetings has been increasingly difficult for teachers to fit in to the whole school calendar, particularly in secondary schools, where quite a lot of the time is taken up by whole school meetings rather than subject time. And I know that's, and I can see you nodding, it is a real challenge. And obviously there's only so many twilights you can do as well when, you know, you've got lots of other things to have to plan for. But it's not impossible, and we have to have it as an ambition to think about how we can really support teachers with that.
Just on that particular point, I'm thinking, because I'm a teacher myself. I'm a physics teacher, sorry, but we're at performance management season, and often for my own performance management, for example, there's a how are you accessing CPD, how are you accessing training type question. And going back to what we're talking about with governor networks, if we can be pushing governors to push schools to say, why don't we say for our RE colleagues, one of your targets is to access specific training around whatever we're doing in SACRE, that might free up the time deliberately, because it's part of the training. There's reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if you almost formalize it in that way, say this is an option, and if that comes through the governors to the schools, it might work slightly better.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Bob. Priority 3 and 4, that we said we'd look to have an annual programme of reports from our subject leaders. SACRE members who were part of SACRE last year will remember that was kicked off by Taco and Andy, our representative, secondary and primary representatives on Committee C, both of whom, when we met at Pathfinder, provided presentations about the work that they did as subject leader and subject coordinator. We just want to get some willing victims, I think, for this year, for them to come along and tell us about how they're leading their subjects in their schools. So we'll approach some people that I know to try and reassure them that that's nothing too threatening, and that they can just do a very, very quick PowerPoint presentation as Andy and Taco did. But it just gives you a sense of how the different schools are approaching RE. Because there is some really good stuff going on out there, and it's good to showcase it. We did last year get school visits off the ground, thanks to a very generous head teacher at Ralph Butterfield and subject leader. We want to now obviously have some visits planned in for this year. So I'm going to twist Taco's arm that we go to Joe Rowe as the secondary school, and probably fit in another couple before the end of the 23-24 academic year.
Thank you, Jay. It's worth just because I was on that school visit. It was worth saying that the value for me as a member of SACRE was huge in being able to actually see evidence of what we're supposed to be doing, rather than just sitting around a committee table and just ticking boxes. So it was really, really good. I would encourage as many of you as possible to go on these visits. The other thing as well was that we actually got a framework for a visit, which enabled us to kind of formalize what we were seeing, what we were doing, and then again back to what you said, Bob, about the discussions with the children. We went into the classes, and we actually got a particular time where I think it was 2 members of SACRE. Okay, yeah, yourself. Sorry, Penny. Yeah, because I think it was you and Ian went off and just interacted with the children without the rest of us being there, without any of the. And my understanding is that was brilliant. Well, certainly the feedback was great. We got back, so that framework will work in any school, but to get that was good. And the other thing that was really, really noticeable was the amount of time that had gone into the syllabus, and the amount of preparation, the amount of communication, but real pride. There was but not just the head and the lead, but they were really proud, weren't they, of what they were doing. And yeah, so it's
and I think it was really striking how much time the head teacher gave to that visit as well, and really valued it. No, but biscuits. So as I say, what I will do is for November, I'll send out a date for the next one, and then try and fit one into the spring term and the summer term, so that we've completed at least 3 this academic year.
Penny,
So
did you
I was just going to say, please note that we're, as faith members, we're quite busy in May.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Interface busy. Yeah. Okay.
I just want to say this, but I mean, Maxine, thank you, because obviously we've lost Olivia, and due to finances of the council, we're not likely to get any support anytime soon for this, and you are taking this on top of all the other many tasks that I set you on a regular basis. So thank you for everything you're doing about that. And I just wanted to ask, you mentioned task and finish groups several times. Obviously, we've got a table of stuff here that has a blank rag rating next to it. And I was wondering if, not now, but obviously in between this meeting and the next meeting, if there's any members of the committee who want to take up the mantle of maybe just specifically doing a bit of rag rating on where they think we are right now, so that we can maybe come back to this and say, all right, well, actually, this is the bit we've definitely done. We're happy with that. But we need to move on with another section. I'm happy to be involved in that. But I only started on this committee in May and think it would really benefit from someone who has been on it for a bit longer. So I'm volunteering myself, but if there's another couple of people who'd be willing to be involved, please say aye. Don't all have to jump at once, guys.
I'm happy necessary, but
I totally agree with that.
I'm not the longest serving member of this committee. There are several around the table that have been doing this longer than me.
Thank you, Martin.
Ben is very knowledgeable.
He is, yeah.
A long-standing.
And he's not here, so we
And
can
so
volunteer for
volunteer
things.
for
can't
what's
we?
here, yeah.
So anybody else fancy joining?
So I would, but I've only been on a committee one meeting longer than you, so I feel a bit the same.
Oh, you're a veteran.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a new one. I'm happy, but.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we start with the plan of myself to sort of coordinate things and ask the questions, and Martin and Ben moving forwards, because it would be quite good if we can rag rate things, and then in the future, a different group of people can come along and follow that on.
Yeah.
Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think the other thing as well, if you can give some thought once the rag rating's completed to what we might want in the next iteration of the development plan, I think that's going to be important. Some of it will come out of some of the work that we're doing around the annual report, but I think it is important for SACRE members to have a view of what is it that we should be doing in that space as well around the promotion of RE in the city.
Thank you. Any questions on the development plan that we haven't covered at all? Excellent. Okay, I'll move on to item 5 then, which is the school survey.
Okay, so you may remember, if you've been on SACRE for a while, that Olivia devised quite a big school survey, which she devised again using some advice from SACRE. We ran it last year. Some of the feedback that I had from teachers was that it felt a little bit long, and that it felt quite onerous to actually try and fill it in, because the original one had, I think it was nearly 30 questions. And so one of the things that I've done is slimmed it down this time. There was also as well, they divided it into a primary and a secondary version. And so what I've tried to do is slim it down into one that will go out to both primary and secondary. I was hoping that I was going to try and make it sort of Survey Monkey style, but I think there's still a need to get some text, not just yes and no answers out of it, but to try and make it meaningful, because we need obviously some feedback from schools that we can use to just get that view of what's happening across our schools in the RE space. And there are some things obviously that it's important to know, like how much time is spent on RE in particular schools, and also a little bit about continuing professional developments and what is being accessed, and also what do teachers feel they need more support with. So I've tried to slim it so that we get some meaningful feedback from this, but I've got teachers in the room, and it would be useful, you know, sort of if there are things that you feel we still need to do with it to make it as accessible as possible. I do intend to send it out in the next week and give people a couple of weeks to actually do returns on it, because some of this will be the evidence base that finalises the annual report. So it is quite an important piece of work. Again, Ben had volunteered in the previous year to run a task and finish group on the survey. And that may be one of the things that we want to do after we've run this one again.
Yeah, I think there's not enough time to do one between now and then. Won't be fair on anybody, but does anyone have any questions or any thoughts about this particular survey as is? Are we happy with it? Diane?
I think it's a good, giving you that overall picture without, as you say, being too onerous and too time consuming. Because as we've already said, that if you want anybody to sit down and do a piece of work, it's got to be manageable because they're just juggling so much all the time. But yeah, I think it would work well.
Thanks, Sue. Diane?
Just practical things around the wording. Number 5 is a closed question. I would expect you want examples there.
Yeah.
So if so, what? And 7 and 8, what CPD as a subject matter taking part in? That could be anything. Your response could be non-RE specific. So what RE specific?
RE
CPD?
specific, yeah.
Councillor Wilson?
I did wonder as well, given what we were saying about some of the things on the development plan, whether with other comments and notes, it's worth saying how could SACRE support you with what, making it really explicit that that's what we're there to do, because that would help them know that we're there to do it.
Thank you. The only other comment I had was question 13. If you'd answered no to question 15 above, I think that should be 12.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. It's because I was actually editing it as I was going.
Honestly, you're doing great. That's just me being.
No, you're quite right to point that out.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts? I actually, for my money, I actually quite like this. I think it's direct and to the point, which is what is needed. I think it covers the basis of the previous item as well, linking into our development plan, which is quite important. Any more on that? No. Well, thank you for your work on that one, Maxine. That's really helpful.
So what I will do, obviously, because it's going out in the next couple of weeks, the responses will form part of the annual report, but I will also as well provide you in January with a breakdown in terms of responses to the questions, so that we're using that then in an active way. So that will be one of the reports that comes to the January meeting.
Karen?
I was just early in the meeting texting my head of department, and we don't at All Saints receive any SACRE emails.
I think that probably links in with knowing that the named person. It probably goes to the reception.
It'll go into the All Saints generic inbox at the moment, so we'll make sure that one is refreshed.
Excellent, thank you.
It's always good to have this proofread.
Get a room full of people who what do we start by saying? We read papers and criticise. Sorry, Maxine.
No, it's actually really important that these things picked up, because as I say, I've usually got red pen all over everything. So yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end of the meeting, apart from any other business. And for any other business, I will just point out the bits of paper that you've got on your table. So this has been sent in by Ben Rich, the bigger piece. Women taking men's roles, Tracy Ann Overman and Rabbi Elishiva Salamo. And that's Wednesday, the 15th of November at York City Screen Picture House. 1 PM and 2 PM apparently. And then we also have a link to York Interfaith Group. Penny, I don't know if you wanted to say anything about
Yes, or Dariush, if you have anything to say. Our theme this year is about being a good neighbour. We have many people contributing as usual. We have some interfaith events, and then we have faith events. So there's a combination of events in there. And if you'd like to pick out an interfaith event, if any of you'd like to come to one that would include all faiths, then we have our tree care on Saturday, where our trees are planted on Clifton Ings to help with the flood defences. So that's our environmental goodness. And then we'll have a closing service to which the Civic Party, the Lord Mayor's coming. So that's at the very end to conclude, and we'll have a bring and share lunch. I think it's at the it's probably it's a Unitarian chapel, I think. So they're interfaith events, but there's lots of, you know, if you want to gain some more understanding about faiths that perhaps you don't, know much about, then there's an opportunity to dip into a whole variety of things this week. I will tell you that last night we're all aware of the problems in and the issues and the struggles in Palestine and Israel at the moment. That we held last night in York Interfaith, we held a closed prayer vigil, really, and invited contributions from all the faith communities, and particularly the Muslim and the Jewish faith communities, to give prayers, talk about peace it was held here, so a neutral ground, if you like, but generally we've had really good relations between our faiths in York, and from conversations I've had, there's concern that we continue with that despite the struggles in the world, and obviously it affects both those faith communities, that we continue to have dialogue and discussion and work on having good relationships here in York, where we do have a liberal Jewish community and we do have a Muslim community. So it was just about an hour and 10 minutes, I think, wasn't it, Dariush? And as I say, we had a number of just talks or prayers or from the different faith communities. So just so you're aware, that as we're aware that it's difficult, and we're trying to find ways to continue. So Interfaith Week, getting back to Interfaith Week, the point is that we particularly are keen that this Interfaith Week is a way to bring us together and to be a good neighbour. And so that perhaps if you think, I do sometimes think, it's really late, I've had a busy day, can I really get myself together to go out? And okay, right, that this week particularly is a week to look at that, from a faith perspective, that we use it as a platform to be a good neighbour to everyone. Despite what's happening in the world, that we continue to work on our good relations here in the community.
Thank you, Penny. And I think that given the work that we do here on SACRE, my view very much is we're developing young people to have a broad world view of themselves, of other people, of other faiths, of other creeds, of everything like that. And I think that's so important. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you all for what you're doing in your different communities, because it is really important. And I think, times like now really show the importance of being a good neighbour. So thank you. Reese, being my good neighbour, has helpfully reminded me that I've missed an item out. So that's what Reese is for, which was correspondence and complaints. Maxine, have we had any?
So no complaints this time and no determinations.
Excellent. That's good news. Makes things a lot easier. Has anybody else got any other AOB that I'm not aware of? Tremendous. So the next meeting is January the 22nd at 6 p.m. Remind us of the address, Penny. Where are we going? Well, then don't worry, we'll let everybody know as much as we can.
Yeah, so it is subject to, I don't want to, but it's my best to be there, but it's just subject to.
Yeah,
it's not. Then
on my list of stuff to do, Martin, so we will get there and do our best. Diane?
Will there be a dial-in option for that? Will that be
That's
possible?
part of the question.
I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
I'm coming from Leeds, so it was easy tonight because I came on the train, but to get to work and.
Yeah.
that's the one that we have to
Yeah,
have.
we have.
Yeah.
And that's how I was trying to make.
Yeah.
Some of the others that we go to, probably don't have to have, but because of the quality of the annual report we do.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll have a big red phone and dial in. It'll be great. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. We'll sort it out.
Hello?
Thank you very much, everybody. Let's close the meeting. Nighty night.